the Indians would come begging at their door.
Pierre Pauquette's daughter, Therese, grew up at Portage during the turbulent 1830s. Her story resonates with Beverly Bailey.
Therese, his daughter, is my great-grandmother. Therese was married 2 times, and from the second marriage, she had 3 children, Mary, Louis, and Emma. And Emma is my grandmother.
Beverly vividly recalls a first-hand story which was passed down by her great-grandmother, Therese. It is poignant that one of the most painful memories of Therese's youth is the one which was passed down, but without sharing the extent of her connection with it.
Therese said that the Indians would come begging at their door out there in Portage someplace. And I don't know, if she was proud of being Native herself. I didn't get that connection. But that's about the extent that my mother would say that the Indians would come begging.
This story likely relates to Ho-Chunk people desperately seeking relief, while waves of famine and disease swept their communities as a result of the 1830s upheavals. The stories were also painfully clear to Juliet Kinsey, the wife of the Portage Indian agent.
The half-breed families of the neighborhood, who had, like ourselves, continued to share with the needy as long as their own stock lasted, were now obliged, of necessity, to refuse further assistance. These women often came to lament with us.
The fact that great-grandmother Therese was closely related to these suffering indigenous families, or even that she was a daughter of Pierre, was not conveyed.
I think I didn't realize at that time the connection of Therese and Pierre being that close. I just knew that he was French. He was a French fur trader. And I didn't know about, I really didn't know about his relationship or much about him. And then I started finding his name in history books and started gathering a little bit more information about him. It's just recently that I've realized he was probably mostly Native American.
Although 200 years separate Therese's childhood from the present day, generationally it is not a distant past.
She was married to a Brisboe first, and had maybe five or 7 children. And I remember one of those children was a lady by the name of Teresa McMahon. And that was a married name, of course, and she lived in Portage there. I remember visiting her. And then Teresa married this Prescott, and I think he was, I think they called him an Orangeman, maybe Northern Ireland person. And they had 3 children. The 3rd child, Emma, is my grandmother, and she married Charles Francis Kerwin, and they had 5 children. My mother was the last child, Lois Catherine Kerwin Enerson. That's a Norwegian name. And they were up in Friendship, Adams area of Wisconsin. We would go to Portage, I don't know how frequently, but we were up there a lot. And another thing, Charles F. Kerwin, that's married to Emma, the daughter of Therese. He had a sister called Kit that never married, but she had a hat shop there in Portage for a long time. Because he used to ride the train. He had a pass, and he would ride the train when I went away to college in 1956 to, I was there 2 years, so 56, 57, then 57, 58. So he died in one of those years, but he had ridden the train up to see me in Winona, Minnesota. I knew Emma very well, but I did not know her mother, Therese. Grandma, Emma, had a stroke. She lived at our house during that time when she was in a coma. They had been living at 531 Wingra Drive over by Vilas Park in Madison. They lived on Mill Street to begin with. That's where they raised their family. And Grandpa worked for the Milwaukee Road, but I can remember my grandparents listening to a big radio standing on the floor with a cloth on the front of the speakers, and they would lean over to it with their hand around their ear, trying to listen to it, the news. And after her dad was killed in 1836, Dousman named himself her guardian, she and her brother Mose. And I think he put them in the boarding school. You know, from what I think I know about Pierre is that he had that ferry. Did he own that ferry? Mm-hmm. And he probably had a farm and a lot of livestock. And we think he was probably very successful because he had been doing this interpretation for the government all the time. He could speak these different languages. He helped build your agency house there, and it sounds like he lived adjacent to the agency house for a while. But we just think that he was probably, rather successful man, and we kind of think that when he was killed, Dousman took over, and he said he had to pay off the debts, and that's what happened to the estate. But I'm very curious. We knew Mose in Black River Falls, and I think he was probably the son of the brother of Teresa. I remember hearing not a rumor, but a little fact, that he walked with one foot in front of another, like the Indians did. He wrote a story called The Wisconsin Winnebagos, but see, that was after I grew up that I knew about that.
Therese attended Juliet Kinsey's Sunday afternoon school sessions along with other Portage Métis children. Once Pierre died, she and her brother Moses were sent to the Ho-Chunk Reservation boarding school in northeast Iowa.
See, I didn't even think of her being native that much. I kept thinking she was mostly French. When I started getting interested in this Native American and the boarding schools, I was thinking of the trauma that she suffered. And she was in boarding schools, I think, 9 years. Well, she didn't know who she was when she came out of there. She had been removed from her mother, and so she had not been nurtured properly. And I'm saying that she could not have been a good mother. Huh? That she didn't know how. I think she was in a Catholic school after Yellow River, and then somehow went to another convent type. And I believe she was very educated. Maybe learned piano. Was, you know, that maybe it wasn't a bad experience for her, but nevertheless the Indian culture was removed from her. I don't get the feeling that she associated with the Indian part of her. Well, just take pride in knowing that they're your relative and what part they played in history. I think that what's happening now, people don't know the history. I think it's all repeating, and we're not learning. We didn't learn. We label people so quickly.